attending with us online. We appreciate your willingness to come and be with us. We're going to start tonight. We have a special guest who's going to give us her prerogative, either an invocation or a thought, and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so, Brenda, thank you very much.
As long as I don't have to sing the national anthem, we'll be okay. Do I need to say my name?
Nope.
Okay.
But you do need to sing the national anthem.
I said as long as I don't need to sing
Oh,
that,
oh,
I'll
I
be
thought you were
okay.
volunteering.
This is a statement by Mahatma Gandhi, and I'm sure we've probably all heard it, but I thought it was worth repeating. It says, keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. You say the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brenda. We appreciate that very much. Council, we have a limited number of items on the agenda this evening. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review those. In doing so, has anyone found anything they'd like to disclose in regards to a conflict of interest or potential perceived conflict of interest? I see none. By the way, before I forget, Councilmember Severing is caught in traffic on his way back from Salt Lake. Guess there's a wreck down here on 2700 in the freeway that's got things backed up pretty much. So hopefully he'll be able to join us. At this point in time, we're going to hear from our Economic Development Director, Scott Hess, and he's going to talk to us about the acquisition of the Weber County surplus property that we've been discussing for some time. Yes. Did I forget something? Public comments. Yes, I did. Thank you. Anybody like to make a public comment before we get started? Anyone online, John?
No raised hands.
Okay, and seeing none. That's why I skipped over it. I knew there was nobody that wanted to comment, so. All right, now we'll hear from our Director of Community and Economic Development, Mr. Hess.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have spoken about this property a few times. The last time that the council saw this property, you asked the city different departments to go out and take a look at the viability of the piece of property. So I went out and looked at it. We had Dave Espinoza take a look at it. We had sewer, stormwater, and parks departments all take a look at it, and they provided some feedback that was compiled into an email to the council several weeks ago as the budget was winding down. And we've brought this back to you now with some amendments to the original proposal in line with the comments from the council and a recommendation from staff to purchase it. As a reminder, this is a hillside parcel owned by Weber County, parcel number 16-040-0130, approximately 3220 North Mountain Road. It is a hillside parcel. It doesn't have frontage on Mountain Road, and it's accessible via private property. We would need to collect an easement or via development in the future up out of the Mason Cove subdivision. So right now it's technically a landlocked piece of ground. We do own a piece of property that touches it, so we can access it and utilize it, but that's from the lower portion. So this would be a bit of a longer range plan here. The county is willing to sell us this parcel for the reduced true value, just the taxable value of $12,527.96. And the change that we've requested, and we'll send this back to the county with our potential willingness to purchase it if the council decides to do it, providing us with an additional 5 years to put the restroom on the property. So originally the county wanted a restroom completed within 5 years. We have the agreement to read restroom and improvements within 5 years with an opportunity to extend for another 5 years. And if we don't make it by the end of 10 years, then the property would essentially revert back to the county. So we haven't met our obligation by the agreement. With that, I'll take any questions and
What questions, council, do you have? Councilmember Pulver?
It's more of a statement, I think. So we did budget 13 grand for this, I think, for this year. So that's the money part, but, and that was the only red line was just to add in that extra 5 years, which was kind of my concern. But really, is there, I guess from a planning point of view, is there any people planning to develop that upper area? Do we know of?
Yeah, the biggest challenge that we have is the water, the culinary
Right.
water and water pressure around that side of the city. If you think about the elevation level of the cove as it wraps around that hillside. So it's a challenge, but, and it's a large piece of property that's up off of Mason Cove. So we hear from folks every once in a while who want to develop it, but when they realize that the road would have to go up and what the costs are associated with it, it's a challenging piece to develop over 10 years, maybe less so, but right now it is a difficult piece to develop.
Okay.
Councilmember Watson?
Thanks. I have 3 questions. So I was interested to see that staff suggested it is a viable piece of property because it's very steep. And I worry about, kids on sleds going into someone's backyard, that kind of steep right up next to the. So I trust the staff's expertise on that. I just wanted to bring that up so that public's aware that that research has been done. I know that it is a taxable value, a lower rate that we're buying the property. But do you are, just wanted to confirm, you're still recommending this being a recommendation after we invest in the bathroom, getting the bathroom there, getting the street or some kind of access, do we need to buy land to have that easement? And then if it costs money to get water up to the bathroom or the drinking fountain or whatever, after all of those costs, it's still viable, right? It's still economically viable.
It is at $12,000 for a 4-acre piece of property, hillside property to preserve in perpetuity. So far, all of the departments have agreed that it seems like a reasonable.
So, I know it's only 12,000 now, but after all of those other investments, it will be more. And the other investments, the bathroom, the water, the easement, buying that easement, whatever we have to do, those don't have to be now. So we have time to budget the money for that. Okay. And then also the lakeside little park that you, referenced. That one doesn't have a bathroom, does it? So is the county, when they sell it to us, they're the ones requesting the bathroom, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. That's all, thank you.
And Scott, just to clarify, we do have access to it.
We
It's not
do-
totally landlocked because we own that piece right
Right.
next to it if worse comes to worse.
We do,
have
yeah. We
access.
can access it from the bottom of the hillside with a triangle of property that North Ogden owns.
Okay.
I don't know if John can pull up the staff report and show the plat page because you can see the piece we own. So the red 4 acres is the piece that the county wants to sell us. That lower triangle below it is owned by North Ogden City. And we have access easements through the Taylor Hill subdivision to the west to Mountain Road, as well as a public utility access directly south, but those are on private property. It's a utility access, so we can utilize it for maintenance. But it wouldn't be without purchasing property necessarily a public access in either of those cases. It's more like a public utility access. There's a water line that runs on the north side of this property that the city would like to be able to manage and maintain our own water. So that's another benefit of purchasing the property, is that we would have, then we'd own the property that we're having a utility sitting on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions, council? If not, then I would look for a motion. This is agreement A 16-2024. I would be looking for a motion to approve the acquisition of the Weber County surplus property. Do we have such a motion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Barker.
I'll make a motion to approve agreement A 16-2024 acquisition of the Weber County surplus property as presented.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? This being an agreement, we'll take a roll call vote. Start with you, Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
and Council Member Barker.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. At this point in time, I want to suspend a few things. I don't know the official way to do that, so somebody may need to help me. But it is Mr. Call's birthday today, and his family has come to be with him tonight. And we have a little cake for John. So we would invite anyone who would like a piece of cake. Looks like we have our first taker. There. And John, we want to wish you a happy birthday. And just advise you now that you're of legal age to be careful out on the roads. There, so.
I'm of the age where my knees creak when I get up. So
Yes. So, Emily, we welcome you and the girls to our meeting tonight. John hates this. This is why we do it. And apologize for interrupting council member meeting, but things do happen.
Free cake.
Councilmember Pulver wants to know if we want to sing.
Yes.
Okay. Who are you going to lead us, Phil?
Close to your mouth.
All right, Phil's going to lead us. Phil's going to lead us. Ready?
Happy
Happy
birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John.
Happy birthday to you.
thank
All
you.
right. Yes.
I usually try and skip council meeting if it's on my birthday because my parents brought balloons one meeting. So
Oh. I think they'll be here a little bit later. They just got caught in traffic. So, thank you, Mr. Swanson, for leading that rendition. And with that, we'll let Katie serve those who would like a piece of cake. Hopefully that would be everyone. If you don't, then that's okay. We'll then proceed now with our meeting. All right, we're going to go on to item number 4. This is on a discussion for an agreement that we've discussed in previous meetings regarding the production of Newsies at the Barker Park Amphitheater this coming summer. I think that was in your packet. John, as I reviewed that, it might have been just me. You and I talked about that 45-day time period to receive payment after the conclusion. Did you make that amendment in there?
oh, that I did not make that in there, but we could pass it with that amendment, and then I'm sure that I talked to her about it, but it didn't end up in the document.
Do you want to explain to the council what we talked about?
So the idea, council, would be that after the show ends, they would have a little bit of time in that 45 days to pull all their expenses together, and then they'd need to issue us a check for our share of the profits, which would be half of anything that was revenue over expenses. They're not guaranteeing revenue, as says in the agreement, but if there is some, then we would get some. So, and the agreement is pretty straightforward. The biggest thing that I pushed back on, or not pushed back, that we talked about was originally they had an exclusive use of the amphitheater from July 12th through August 9th. And I just said, no, that's not going to work. It needs to be around the show. And they still have a priority use. So if they need it for rehearsals or things, they can. But like they never rehearse on Friday nights. So if there's another group, or if there's a city event that's on a Friday, Friday nights are often when the band likes to perform their stuff. So we just work through some of those kinks. And I think they're going to be good partners on this. They're excited. It'll be interesting to see how it comes off at no expense to the city, except for the potential lost revenue from other rentals. So it'll be an interesting summer, and I'm excited for it. And they also will be doing free tap dance classes, because Newsies is a tap dance musical, or a tapping musical. So if any of you want to learn to tap dance and jump into Newsies, then you can do it.
All right. council, you've had a chance, I think, to read the agreement. John will make that amendment. Do you need to put that up there on the screen, John, before we,
Yeah, let me,
in the meantime, while you're doing that, let me ask the council if they have any questions. Councilmember Watson or council, each provided out.
I was just gonna confirm that there's a way that we can be sure that the Newsies props and set will be safe if someone else uses the facility at the same time that they store all of their.
so we'll have some deposits and things, and we have some cameras that can help with
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Councilmember Dalpaz?
I read through the agreement, but I didn't see it. John probably knows. Are they providing their own insurance in this situation?
So we will still have them sign the same facility use agreement that we have anybody else do. There just won't be a cost. And we've talked about that. They have their own insurance. They're going to bring a lot of their own lights and equipment. I think she said they have a $2 million policy, which is $1 million more than we require. So yes, that will all be covered.
Thanks.
And so I just added that language here that says payment shall be made within 45 days of the end of show.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, this is also an agreement. This is agreement A17-2024. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve this agreement for the production of Newsies at the Barker Park Amphitheater, summer of 2025. Do we have a motion? Councilmember Watson.
I'll make a motion that we approve A17-2024 to approve the agreement for the production of Newsies at Barker Park.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpaz. Are there any further questions or discussion? That there was the highlight of the meeting, right there. Thanks for coming. Okay. All right, any further questions or discussions? All right, we'll take a vote on this. We'll start with you, Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 5 on our agenda. And this is a discussion or action to approve the city code amendment for alcohol beverage sales. Mr. Call will lead that discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. So this one came up in our last conversation as we were talking about the city code. The mayor identified that our ordinance was behind a couple of years. The alcohol percentages changed from what they were 3 years ago to dealing with the percentage of alcohol and the weight by volume. And so we, in our definition section of our code, had tried to specify that, and it was this very long description or definition that mirrored what the state code said a couple of years ago. And so we've just amended our ordinance, or we're suggesting it be amended. So the definition just says beer shall be defined as that term is defined in the Utah Alcohol Beverage Control Act. So that means as the state amends theirs, this will amend as well, and we'll just stay up to date that way. It's a little easier than the way we've done it in the past. It's a very similar thing to what we've proposed in a lot of the code changes, is we're just referencing the state code instead of trying to copy it in our ordinance to help keep us up to date quicker and easier. So.
Okay, anything else, John?
Nope.
Council, what questions do you have in Mr. Call? Councilmember Pulver?
I did note that in that same code that we, because I did some looking into on the Utah, what do they call it? Anyways, alcohol, Bureau of Alcohol, but the code they're referencing is the 32B, and I think we have 32A in several places in our paragraph 4 someplace. Anyway, it doesn't necessarily affect this one, but it may affect other things in that code. So I was going to email it to you, but then got sidetracked with other things. But so, and I think the other thing is defining whether or not city code allows for anything above the what was it, 0.5?
4%, I think, weight, 5% by weight, 4% by volume.
Yeah, it currently doesn't. Because we did talk about that a little bit last week.
Right.
And so if we were going to have an establishment that a business or a restaurant that wanted to sell wine, we need to amend and add a whole section to our code. And I think that Scott and I talked about it briefly, but I think that that's something we would suggest is that we allow for that, just because there's some national restaurants and stuff that wouldn't come here if they don't have that opportunity.
Okay. Is that something that we need to look at in the near term with all the things coming up?
I'll see if we can add it in with the code changes that we're trying to get approved by January.
Okay.
So, which is really only like 3 meetings away.
Okay.
What other questions do you have for Mr. Call? Any other questions? I don't see anyone. So this is ordinance 2024-19, which will require a roll call vote. Do we have a motion to accept the ordinance change? It's explained.
Mayor,
Councilmember
make
Barker.
a motion to accept ordinance change 2024-19 amendment for alcohol beverage sales.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpaz. Do we have any further discussion or questions on this issue? Seeing none, then we'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Pulver,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalpaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Councilmember Severing. Are you prepared to vote, or are you aware of what we're?
I looked at the materials, so yes.
Okay. So the ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 6 on our agenda. We'll first hear from Councilmember Dalpaz. He's going to report on the police department. Councilmember Dalpaz?
Yeah, I didn't have my information up and ready because I'm not used to it coming this quickly. So we just swore in 2 new officers in the police department. So Officer Bersamin and Officer Vargas have joined our police force. So hopefully you'll see them patrolling the city, and hopefully you'll say hello to them if you're able to interact. And I did get a bunch of statistics from Chief Einan. I just wanted to kind of give everyone an idea of where we're at on calls for service year to date versus last year, so it can kind of give you an idea as to how things are going. So for actual calls for service received by dispatch, we had 10,755 calls last year in 2023. Year to date in 2024, we have 5,616 calls for service. Total calls for service, including self-initiated and officer-involved calls, in 2023, we had 15,441 of those. In 2024, year to date, we have 10,385. Traffic stops, year to date, traffic stops versus citations issued, we've had 3,534 traffic stops, resulting in 1,604 citations. And so I think it's important to note there that, you know, it's not just a given that if you are pulled over by one of our officers that you will receive a citation. I think a lot of times they like to give grace and warnings as much as possible when it's appropriate. And then other than that, community service officer calls, which is our code enforcement type of issues. In 2022, we had 367 calls there. In 2023, 837. In 2024, year to date, 520. And then I have a few more bits and pieces of information here, but I will end there because those are the most notable things to share.
Councilmember Dalpez, would you mind if I add just a couple of things in
Sure.
regards to community service? Just so our citizens are aware, is generally our community service folks aren't out cruising the city looking for violations, although occasionally that may happen. They're dealing mostly with calls that they receive in regards to residents' perceived violation of code. So I know sometimes our residents are a little bit frustrated when they don't think we catch all of those things, but I just wanted the public to be aware of the fact that if they have an issue, please contact non-emergency dispatch, and our community service officers will deal with that as soon as possible. I think in Chief Einen's report to the council, he indicated we're really he would like more resources there, even if it came down to that or a sworn-in officer. So just wanted the public to be aware of that. And then just a reminder, I know oftentimes citizens believe that we write citations to generate revenue for the city. And I would just point out that 85% of all the revenue that comes from a citation issue goes to the state of Utah. We basically just receive enough to cover our justice court operating costs. It's really interesting. I've had citizens say, you know, I got a ticket for doing 37 and a 30. Yeah. Well, why? Well, you take the chance if you're breaking the law that you'll get cited, right? You take that chance, but you know, there's no necessarily any degree of breaking the law and not breaking the law. So our officers are out there trying to keep our city safe. And as Councilmember Dalpaz pointed out, I think it was almost 50% of the
It was
Uh,
about 50%
don't
were
receive-
cited and 50% got off.
don't receive a citation. So just wanted to clarify those two things. And then we'll move on to Councilmember Severing. Do you have anything to report to us on building and planning?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. So Scott Hess would like me to make the citizens and the council aware that he'll be attending along with Ryan, I suppose, and the planning department. Additional training this next week in Provo, the Utah American Planning Association. So we have a planning department that's continuing to sharpen their skills and knowledge. And then Nate actually indicated that the building department is continuing to inspect homes and commercial buildings. And apparently between both Scott and Nate, they wanted to indicate that Prominent Point has met the requirements for the development agreement for phase 1. And they can now schedule a final inspection when they're ready. And temperatures have been favorable, allowing the contractors to continue to prep that area for new construction as well.
Councilmember Severing, any information in regards to the number of building permits, how we're doing in comparison to our projections?
I don't have that with me,
Okay.
but I'm sure I can bring that back
If you would, that'd be
at our
good.
next meeting.
I think that'd be good for the council to know how we're proceeding along in regards to budgeted revenue.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now go to Councilmember Barker, report on parks.
So I met with Jamie and Tyler last week at our staff barbecue, and they were going to give me some information, but I think they're all deer hunting right now.
Oh,
But I did mention to them, our parks have never been greener than they are right now. So our staff's doing a great job, and the cooler weather's helping out too.
yeah, I know many of us were over at Loma View Park this week and it looked really, really good. Just as a reminder, and Councilmember Barker, if you would kind of put this on your agenda, Cherry Days is going to be upon us before we know it. And the council needs to make a decision what our approach is going to be there. So if we could get that on an agenda upcoming, make some decisions so we can have a good celebration, that would be good. So, Councilmember Severing?
Mayor, if it's okay for me to make this recommendation, because I agree with you, it's going to be here before we know it. Would that be something we would want to do for a first Tuesday work session?
We surely can. I think the other issue we need on a work session, but John would be able to respond to this.
Yep.
Is, as you'll notice, we don't have on the agenda this evening regards on the RDA applicants. I think the majority of the council members have requested some education on that and some decisions that need to be made before we can move forward on that. So we probably need to put that on a work session agenda too, John. I think we discussed doing that. Councilmember
Mayor?
Severing?
Well, I was just going to say, I wasn't thinking ahead, but Councilman Barker said that first Tuesday would be election night, so. But it definitely does need to be scheduled quickly because we need to get on top of that.
I think we talked about scheduling another work session in between council meetings here in October, John.
Yeah, we do have that option of shooting for the 8th, or sorry, that tonight's the 8th, the 15th, or seeing what we have on the 22nd and trying to break that into a work session with a regular session that follows to kind of, differentiate between the two.
I think we'd like to get that. But I think I may have another commitment on the 22nd. But not sure at this point in time. We have a regularly scheduled council meeting on that day. But I think these are decisions that we need to make. We can't push them down the road much longer.
We could potentially, instead of doing it on a Tuesday night, do a work session on Thursday, the 7th of November or something like that. As an
Okay, well,
option.
would you, Ryan, check with council and see if we can get a date where we can resolve those issues?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Councilmember Barker?
Nope.
Okay, thank you for those reports. We'll move on to public comments now. Item number 7 on our agenda. If anyone here would like to comment this evening, or if there's anyone online, just raise your hand and John will let us know. If you would like to comment, please step up to the podium, state your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden, and please limit your comment to 5 minutes, no longer than 5 minutes. Thank you.
Working on a new hip. Yes, my name is Mike Kincannon. I live up at 464 East, 3300 North. I've been a resident here of North Ogden for going on over 24 years. I have just an observation and I have a complaint. I noticed this year that our Heroes Boulevard looked pretty sad. Last year we had plants hanging on there. Didn't see them this year. Banners were missing. Banners are crooked. I mean, just cosmetic things. On the downside, I have 2 kids that are active duty military. Their banners are missing completely now. They used to be up there. We called whoever was in charge prior to the Cherry Days and brought this up. And he said he'd look into it and see about getting the banners reprinted. And he'd call us back. Well, 3 or 4 weeks later, we still hadn't everything. My wife called again. She talked to him and he says, yeah, we're in the process. We're going to get new banners made and replaced. Situation hasn't changed any. So, along with, the banners not being in place, I feel, my kids are still active duty. They're on the tail end of a 20-year career. They're getting ready to retire. I'd like to see their faces up there when I drive by. The other thing is, I think that, we've spent a lot of money putting up all the nice light poles. And it looked really great last year with the potted plants. This year, it just lost its luster. So if you want to take that under charge and see what you can do about it for next year, it would be really great, in my opinion. So thank you.
Let me respond a little bit. John, would you follow up with Dave on the banners?
Yes.
I don't think we've had flowers up for a couple of years, have we?
It's been a couple of years. I know that when they had the plants up, it was really attractive out there and all the banners were, I think that was right after that almost all the new light standards had been put in. So
We had them up for. a
I'm getting
number of
old.
years.
Time flies by so fast.
Does.
Lose track.
And just so you're aware, the expense of that were paid out of RDA funds. And the council, in discussion for several times, and surely always can be readdressed, felt that when the money started having to come out of the general fund, which means we would have to generate tax revenue through increased taxes, the council decided that they wouldn't proceed with that. So with the flowers. Mhm.
Well, just a comment on that sideline. We have enough businesses here in North Ogden. It seemed like might be willing to sponsor a plant. I mean, I granted, I can see where they're expensive. I've looked at buying the plants also. I mean, you're talking, Home Depot, $35, $45 a plant. But I mean, some of these businesses might be a good opportunity for them to step forward and help, beautify our street.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And John, you will get with Dave on that.
Yep, I will talk with him in the morning.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Appreciate it.
Philip Swanson, North Ogden. First of all, thank you for your service. I know how difficult it can be. And thank you this last week in particular, I'm sure with the annual, sometimes biannual burning of the pit. I'm sure your text messages, emails, phone calls were probably ringing off the hook. It's a hard decision to make, but it's an inexpensive way with our tight budgets that we have. It's probably the most effective way for us to rid ourselves of that waste without incurring enormous expenses. So thank you. It's always a hard week when we burn the pit. So thank you for putting up with that.
You have a good memory. And Councilmember Barker, I just did want to mention, I don't know if this would fall under your report or not, but we did have an Arbor Day celebration where we planted a couple trees over there at the Loma View Park to comply with our tree city. North Ogden's been a tree city for some 17 years now. And we appreciate Mr. Call being our chairman of the tree board and taking care of that for us. So, okay. Any other comments from the public this evening?
Reed Miller, North Ogden. I drive from Ogden along Washington Boulevard to 2600 and then turn right. And there was a great big bump right next to Wendy's, and it would just go into the turning lane. And every day I'd say, oh boy, then all of a sudden, hey, it was all smoothed out and all nice. And I said, boy, the city's really doing a good job of doing things that really hundreds and maybe even thousands of people go over that. And I didn't even talk to them about it. So well done.
Okay. Anyone else this evening like to comment? Anyone online? All right, let's move on to item number 8 on our agenda. Let's start with staff. Scott, do you have any comments? Ryan?
Yes, I have something to add. I just wanted to let everybody know that ballots are going to be mailed out on October 15th. Reminder to our residents to please put your ballots in the ballot drop box, which is in front of the library. Please don't put them in the utility payment box. And that's all I had this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that reminder in regards to the election process. It always becomes an issue, signage, compliance with our sign ordinance. And just a reminder, if you see a violation of that nature, you're welcome to call community service. And I know it's a little bit confusing, but one thing that is clear is no type of sign can be put on city property. And I think we're seeing some violations of that. And our officers or whoever sees that just shouldn't be afraid to pick those signs up and discard them. So sign size and location is really important. I know Councilmember Pulver, you've talked about maybe taking a look at that. regards to compliance. So just wanted to make us all aware of that. It's always a difficult time during campaigning.
And
Guess
point of
not.
reference, the ordinance actually says that it's the building inspector that's the one that actually picks it up. But anyway,
Well,
I know.
we let
Wait.
anybody pick it up.
I know.
One of
I
the
know,
new
I know.
code changes.
Yes,
we-
yes, yes.
We've tried to take building inspector out. They used to do
Yeah.
code enforcement for us.
I've even offered to pick some up and John said, well, be careful. It might be looked at as a political move.
Yeah, usually it's city staff that'll take him down. And then assuming it's still usable, we'll put him over here behind City Hall. So if you have a candidate ask or someone with a campaign, they can check by the white fence and if there
Ha-
there
Have
might
you
be
looked
some.
back there recently?
I put a couple of signs back there recently.
Well, no, I'm just saying that I looked back, this is months ago, but I noticed like a Steph Casey and some other stuff. But I mean, so there's been stuff that's been there forever.
We cleaned out a bunch.
Oh, did you? Okay.
So, because I think my 4 or 5 I grabbed and were the only ones back there.
But it's just not political signs too. We're seeing
Mhm.
commercial signs, we're seeing realtor signs, we're seeing all kinds of things there. So just an awareness on that. If your signs turn up missing, if you're running for an office, you know where to locate them. So, all right, council. You have any comments? Councilmember Severing.
Yes, Mr. Kincannon, and I'm assuming this is your wife with you. Well, thank you for being here tonight. I just wanted you to be aware that all of those flowers, it was not an inexpensive venture between purchasing and then the watering. It was around a $30,000 investment. So we did have some individuals, rightfully so, who were concerned about that cost. So I love your recommendation about maybe approaching some businesses about that, but I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Okay, yeah, I understand that there's associated costs. I see the watering trucks down Ogden itself going to water the plants. I mean, you've got to pay somebody to drive up and down the street with a barrel of water to make sure they stay green and don't die. So I understand there's cost associated with it. I just didn't realize the scope of it. But it's an observation on my part that made the whole street look so much more attractive, especially with the banners up representing what we've
Yeah.
done.
I don't know if we've had a subject in the city on my council times where there's been such a diverse opinion about. We've got people who absolutely love the beautiful flowers, and then we've got people who are just the opposite. But I just didn't know if you were aware of that cost. So
Yep, thank you. Any other?
It's hanging there at one time. My daughter worked at Riva State for 3 years. She is just now retiring in November.
Okay, thank you.
We were there, both there, and all of a sudden, no. And then not calling back. This is since July.
Ma'am, did you want to make a comment at the podium? If you'd like to comment, I'd invite you up to the podium. So, okay, thank you very much. I don't have any other comments. John, do you have some?
We would, council, I'm going to send you an email. We would like to do a council retreat. So not like we're not going to like St. Croix or anything like that, but kind of getting together and talking about council priorities, policies and things like that, particularly before we get into the budget session. And this is a public meeting. It'll be recorded. It probably won't be in this room, but we'd like to find out when you're available. And so I'll send out, might send out a doodle poll and kind of see what days. We're thinking maybe like a day and a half, like a Thursday and then a Friday or something. Anyways, we'll send out some options. And even if we need to do it over a couple days, just because of everyone's schedules, we just really want to get the group together and talk about those things, almost like a annual work session that's only focused on city priorities, which then will bleed over into the budget conversations.
And John, I've suggested that we have an educational session in there talking about amending motions and how to deal with that. So our council feels comfortable as we discuss issues on the alternatives of what can take place. So we'll also have a brief educational system about the purpose of the city council, you know, what your job is, what requirements we believe should take place in a council regards to various things of that nature. So we'll take a segment of that also. Okay, anything else, Mr. Call?
If you haven't done the doodle poll before, they're very easy. You just go through and say, these are the dates I'm available, and then it'll group everyone together and say, this is the best day for everybody. So,
Oh, here's your folks. No, just kidding.
Thank you. No, that's all I have. Oh, other than trunk or treat is the 26th at the Aquatic Center. So that's 2 weeks from Saturday. Did you already mention that?
Nope.
Okay. And so we are going to have an administration trunk. If you would like to come hand out candy and help, that would be much appreciated. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think it starts at 10, 10 o'clock, 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've come up with a new way to get people through that, whether it's 2 ways or what, because that's quite a line. So anything else, council? Seeing none, then I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.